Cloud9 White. Can Benita hit the shots that she didn't last time with the Hunter's Fury? No, she doesn't. That's the problem. And unfortunately, she doesn't get as much damage as she needed there. And the showstopper, Jazzykins, you were subbed out for map 1, but no, she doesn't make it happen. She can make it happen with bullets instead then.
How does that pay off? And it's actually a half fight that they had, but Naomi tries to stay alive. It doesn't work out. The defuse is going to come out for Cloud9, and they are the women's champion.
All right, Cloud9 White, congratulations, first ever VCT Game Changers champions. Pretty much a dominant role throughout this tournament. So let's get rolling right away with Brandon.
Congratulations, first and foremost. Kind of playing off of the mention of the dominant tournament, what's the general feeling, when a map ends extremely close after, so many, 13-0s, 13-2s, kind of middle of the road round counts for other teams, kind of like against Moon Raccoons and CLG, there were some really close maps. Are there any adjustments at all that are made in game when these matches kind of go the distance?
There's some adjustments, like based on what other teams are doing or how they're defaulting, that we make to like guarantee that we can win a round and counter what they're doing. But besides that, we just keep our mental strong and like keep going through. And when it's over, we're just happy it's over, to be honest.
Yeah, I was gonna say like how it feels is like, we welcome the challenge. We're glad it's like a closer game, really. By the end of it though, like when it's close, like 10-10, 11-11, I don't think we really crack under pressure. We close those out. And since we had some close games with Moon Raccoons yesterday, like we know we can close out those really close games. So I don't think it really was too much pressure on us, or pressure that we felt.
A 2-0 is a 2-0 is a 2-0.
Is it 2-0?
Yep. I feel like you've said that a few times. Emery, you're next.
So actually, my question I wanted to ask was pretty similar to that. And I think Dream's answer might kind of be suffice for it. But I'm going to ask, when you guys had that first close map go into overtime with Moon Raccoons back in the upper bracket finals, were you caught by surprise at all that, they were able to force the map to be that close?
We definitely thought that the game would not be that close. And it honestly, like thinking back, it's not super surprising. I think Moon Raccoons is a really good team, and it was just unfortunate that like the way things turned out, that Lexi had to step in and play Raze on a map she doesn't normally play on because Jazzy's internet had gone out. But I mean, I still think that we went into it under the impression that the game wouldn't have been that close.
I think we all knew that they were like going to be the other best team in the tournament. So we were expecting them to be better than other teams, but we definitely weren't expecting to go into overtime. And I definitely wasn't expecting to play Raze on a map that I don't play, on an agent I don't play. So yeah, we weren't expecting it to be that close, but we knew that they were really good.
I think one big difference between like the other games in this one is, and by other games, I don't even mean just in this tournament. I mean, just generally speaking, other matches we play in the qualifiers, is that we like getting in our comfort zone, and a lot of stuff happened at the beginning, and also not having a warm-up scrim kind of like threw things off for like the first game, and then we proceeded to like clean things up afterwards. But yeah, just hearing that like Jazzy's internet goes out and then Lexi gets in, and then the moment the first round starts, Jazzy gets back, not having the warm-up scrim, it just kind of gave them a little bit of momentum, but we cleaned things up and we closed it out.
Great, let's go to Malik next.
Congrats on the win. It was an amazing display. Now, you guys didn't just win. You guys absolutely dominated throughout this tournament. What does that do for your confidence going into Challengers now?
For me personally, I don't think us dominating in this tournament is going to affect my confidence going into VCT at all, because I think the teams in VCT are a lot better. So I think it's like just a completely different like ball field of like what we'll be playing against and what we're up against. So I think it's pretty different.
Better is a strong word. I'd say that the teams in VCT have been together for a lot longer and they've been scrimming for a lot longer. But yeah, it definitely, I don't know. I personally feel a little more confident going in, knowing that we have this behind us and that this gave us a lot of experience this weekend.
I personally feel the biggest thing is getting tournament reps on the new patch, with Astra included, is really the biggest thing that's helpful, that gives us some confidence going into VCT. But I mean, we expected to win this tournament without dropping a map, so It's not a giant confidence boost, but getting those reps in and testing these things in matches definitely does help.
Yeah, like 100% agree with what Dream said. And to add on, I think it also helps with like just better confidence when having like nerves, or when you're playing with there's like a lot of pressure, or they're playing with like 30K people watching. I think it definitely has helped us with that in that regard, for that level of confidence. But when it comes to like confidence in like our plays and like our aim and mechanics and so on and so forth, it hasn't really affected that much.
It honestly helps us playing in this more going into like the next tournament, because like we're kind of used to playing teams that we have, like we understand their tendencies and habits a lot because we scrim them all the time and we know what to expect. So like the first round is always like the scariest, because you have no idea how they're going to play, and they pretty much, teams like come out of the gate playing pretty unorthodox sometimes. Like they don't play like smarter, they play for more of their own mechanics, right? So they play harder, as in like they focus more on just winning their ones, right? A while, like I would like to say, like, you know, the higher tier you go, people are playing off of each other more often. So that honestly, like this helps a lot more, because we don't get the chance to practice that. And of course, like on top of like what we've been talking about, like having like 30,000 people watching that, it like definitely helps. So
Hey guys, thank you so much for talking with us. So my question is kind of more directed at the tournament in general. Um, what do you guys think of this sort of layout of Game Changers, bringing in different genders into professional Valorant and kind of being able to lift them up and have a bigger audience and be able to be put out in the esports scene in general?
I think it is so good for the scene, and it is completely unprecedented. There's been no game that I'm aware of that has taken such actionable steps to developing the female scene in their game. It doesn't even come close, really. Like the difference, like even if you look at CSGO right now, like the female scene, there's like 2 signed teams, and there's a couple teams that are in the IM area. But when you look at Valorant, we're looking at potentially, like, I'm not trying to leak, but potentially like 6 signed teams in the future. So like that's incredible. And the thing that is most important about this is that these tournaments encourage org support, and org support means resources for developing this talent. Resources means like salaries, so they can play the game 8 hours a day as much as their like male counterparts. And that also means their teams become like way better because they can just dedicate themselves to the game, which means more women talent.
Yeah, I think everybody always talks about the ultimate goal being like co-ed teams, and this is 100% the way to do it. It's giving like women not only support but exposure for orgs and other teams to pick them up, you know. So this is a really great thing that Riot's doing.
One really good example we can point to is Moon Raccoons, where that's a group of players that didn't really have any attention or eyes on them prior to this event. Now they have a huge fan base. They have a bunch of support. Diana on the team, for example, was tweeting that she was getting DMs from people saying that she was inspiring them to try and play harder. So, and that obviously encourages her to keep working. So there's just so many levels that this touches and helps, right? It's not just the teams that are already having that support, right? It brings so much more support, so many more eyes to these teams and these players.
I also had like the pleasure with Moon Raccoons, like their coach currently is like Kevin, which is Lelius or something. I can't exactly remember on what his handle is on Twitter, just because I know him as Kevin. But I've worked with him before a little briefly, and I've worked with Pranoya, who's like the person that was the point of contact for getting them practice and scrims and stuff. And I've worked with both of them early on in the Valorant scene. So seeing those two work with Moon Raccoons when they were announced, I knew that that team wasn't going to be just like some pushover team, whatever. It's actually a team that actually has resources. So to think about, you know, when they get signed, right? When they get signed and they have the support staff and salary on top of that, they're going to be a really strong force. And I can't wait to see that.
To add on too, there obviously have been female tournaments in other games. Like CSGO will have like really high prize money female tournaments. But I think the big difference is like how closely Riot is working with like the community. Like they are so closely working with Gallerants, which is like a completely organic grassroots like community for women like to have a safe space, and like marginalized genders to have like a safe space in the community. And they work so closely with them. And not only are they developing like players, they're developing female talent, like casters, producers, observers. Like it's like such a beautiful thing to see, and see that they're really, it's not just like a marketing thing, they are genuinely taking the steps that are needed to progress like female equality in gaming.
You love to see it. Let's go to Jess next.
Hey everybody, congrats on your win. That's super exciting. I wanted to ask you about the map advantage that you had going into grand finals. Masters didn't have it. Game Changers did. What do you think about having one versus not having one? Do you think there should be one? Do you think there shouldn't? I just want to know your thoughts on that.
Dream is good for these, not gonna lie.
So I definitely think that you should have some sort of advantage coming from the upper bracket, right? But the place Valorant is in right now, it's kind of awkward. You either do a BO5 with a map advantage, or I mean, you could do like a bracket reset with a BO3, but that is just way too many games in my opinion. What I think would be really beneficial would be once we get more maps and we can have 7 maps in the pool, where teams, there will actually be bans involved in the BO5, letting the higher seed dictate the order those bans happen in, whether they want to be first ban or second ban on the map, so they can get an advantage in the draft rather than a map advantage. Seems like where we should head down the road. But for right now, I don't really think there's an easy answer that makes sense. I do think that if we had not had a map advantage, it would still have been a 3-0 though.
Hi again. So my question is for Mel directly in regards to agent selection. So I've heard from kind of several players personally that I've spoken to that they don't consider Killjoy really a great offensive agent. On both Icebox and Haven, you kind of prove that to be just their opinion, really, rather than fact. Dominating on the attacking side, kind of what are your thoughts on Killjoy as an attacker, and how do you approach offense with her?
Definitely varies from map to map. The most general answer I could give is like the difference between having a Cypher Sentinel and like a Killjoy Sentinel is that you get the most out of her utility on attack if you were like, if she's with the original group, gets map control, and then puts her gadgets in like a really forward position, so you guys can just leave her and then come back whenever you want. Like for Cypher, it's mostly like on Haven, you're throwing a cage to deny info, or you're just like, you're kind of just playing back and just playing for the info. But with Killjoy, you kind of have to play more with the trio and like really take advantage of your utility and like the info that gives you, and just having the ability to hold a section of the map after you gain it. I think that's the biggest difference.
So if there was one, I guess, show of weakness from you all in this tournament, was in those last 2 matches, especially in the closer maps. You all gave up quite a few clutches, 1v1s, 1v2s, things like that. So is that a cause for concern for you all? And if it is, how do you plan on working on it and improving it heading into the next stage of the VCT?
I think the way we played in this tournament is probably going to be a lot different than how we play in our other ones. I think we kind of got like a little sloppy in this one just because we didn't really feel like pressure from the other teams. We didn't really like run any of our like in-depth strategies. We kind of just like ran it down a lot of the time, and took a lot of like ego peaks, a lot of ego 1v1s, just because we weren't really feeling that pressure. But I think that is something that we do like look at, and we do try to fix. I know when Moon Raccoons took us to overtime, that was something that we talked about for a couple hours afterwards, basically making sure that we don't get sloppy even in these types of games, just so that it kind of like carries over to our Champions Tour run. So
a good way to put it is like we didn't play as disciplined because no one was forcing us to. Like the teams we were playing weren't really denying us that ability. So I think in other tournaments where we play better players, we definitely play a lot more disciplined and a lot more precise, I guess. And we also run a lot of like actual strats. In this tournament, we kind of didn't show a lot of our normal strats that we do in scrims and other tournaments. So
I was gonna add to that and say like Annie said, it was like we're kind of taking some like I feel like we're just playing a bit more loose. Like I think like we mentioned earlier, we weren't expecting Winter Coons really like take us like too far. Like we obviously knew they were like the other best tournament or best team in the tournament, but we weren't expecting them to punish our like mistakes because we were kind of playing a little undisciplined because of the habits we had from playing like the weaker teams in the tournament. And I think that it was honestly a super easy fix. It is not like a cause of concern. It was literally just like comms. People were just like doing the same thing, but just not calming it. And the only times they won clutches is when we lined up because both players had the play that they wanted to do and they just needed to calm it. It's super simple fix. And we cleaned that up for today.
Okay, Malik.
Emery, you must have been in my head because I had a very similar question. But backing off of talking about the strats, are you guys kind of developing your playbook going forward with Astra, especially on Haven? I know you guys showed a little bit of that today.
Kat, you want to answer this one?
Yes, I think we're continuing to work with Astra. She's obviously pretty new. And there's a lot that goes into her, you know, there's so much you can do on a macro level with Astra and you have to really work with your teammates, which is something that is a little different from Omen. But yeah, we've been scrimming with her for a bit and I'm very excited to continue to do so. And yeah.
I just want to say that I'm so happy to have a player like Kat that is willing to pick up like a complicated agent like Astra, like the moment they're dropped and just commit to playing that. Because we've heard from like there's a lot of teams that scrimmed Astra and they just dropped her. They just couldn't. After a week, they're like, nah, like that we can't. Our team is not like made for this. We just don't want to deal with it right now. And Kat is really taking it on for the team, and it has honestly upgraded our play so much. So I just wanted to say that.
I love you, Mel.
I love you.
All right. Last question goes to Jess.
I'm glad I'm last because I just have a fun question for y'all. What are you gonna do tonight to celebrate your win?
I'm gonna play some ranked.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch VODs.
Yep. Just probably get drunk, something.
Mel, what are you gonna do?
Me and Mel are gonna be on TikTok.
Yeah, Mel, what are you gonna do, Mel?
No, y'all trying to expose me. I'm not gonna say it. I'm gonna get some boba and I'm gonna watch the VODs back. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That's definitely what I'm doing.
I really said we had pizza party yesterday, so we can't have pizza party today.
Yeah, we all like two people after the match yesterday, two people were individually talking. I forget which two were first, and they both coincidentally were getting pizza. So then basically all of us just ended up ordering pizza in solidarity so we could have our remote
party.
COVID pizza party. Yeah.
It's adorably wholesome. And I have to say, Annie, I kept thinking that there was an old man standing behind you this whole
That's
time.
my dad. Don't worry about him.
And then, then I realized I believe it's Danny DeVito that's behind you. So no big deal.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, C9 White. Congratulations on being the first ever winners. And we look forward to you kicking ass and taking names in VCT Stage 2.
Thank you.
Have a good night, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too.